All right, so this begins the introduction of us removing the Ohlins coilovers from my Model Y and installing them on Steven's track prepped Model 3. Once again, this is the off-the-shelf Ohlins DFV kit. This is not the Redwood kit. We wanted to do a comprehensive review, relatively comprehensive. It is somewhat subjective because everybody's taste is different, but we're going to do the best we can to give you an objective review of this product. So first and foremost, what we wanted to show you is that we have set this to the recommended values provided by Ohlins for the front as well as the rear spring perch measurements. And we wanted to show you exactly what height we got out of the vehicle. So Steven's going to go ahead and show you. We take our measurement from the center of the hub to the bottom of the middle of the fender here. We got about 365 to 367 millimeters here. From the factory in his car, he was at 390 millimeters. So, you know, a little over 20 millimeter drop. In the rear, once again, we're going to measure hub to fender. In the rear, he got 377 millimeters. Now, Ohlins does call out for a 15 millimeter gap on the threads, so you can lower this more. And we have about 15 millimeters left in the front as well. So what that equates to, once you calculate the motion ratio, you'll probably be able to get about another inch drop in the rear and maybe about 18 millimeter drop in the front. That'll level it out. You're pretty much going to kill most of this gap. So there is good height adjustment on the Model 3 as opposed to on the Model Y. So one thing to keep in mind is that your height values will vary depending on your camber settings. This car currently only has a ½ degree of negative camber in the front and the rear. And I would say over a 1 degree change, you might see about a 5 millimeter difference in height. So keep that in mind. We will show you what our pack heights are. And you'll see that there is a slight difference. We do like measuring at the pack. It'll give you the most accurate measurements because the position of these fenders can be different from left to right, whereas the pack will be showing the same values. So let's show you that. And this is where we take our pack measurement, and as you can see, it should be about 123 millimeters for the front. And as you can see, we got the jack point right here. We're measuring here. We're at about 130 millimeters for the pack height on the rear. For a test drive.
All right, everybody, we're in my Model 3 Performance, and we've just put the Ohlins Road and Track onto it at their recommended settings. And I'm normally used to driving around with the MPP Sport coilovers with Super Sport springs on a pretty stiff damping setting, just for reference. So this will be our first time on camera driving around with the Ohlins. I've been driving around with them for about a week, and my impressions so far not super great, and I'm going to show you hopefully on camera how that feels. So here we go. So the first thing I'll mention about the Ohlins Road and Track, this is not the Redwood kit. This is the Ohlins off-the-shelf kit. You know, even compared to my MPP Sport kit with the Super Sport springs, which is supposed to be a pretty stiff setup for track use, this Ohlins kit is very harsh. Much harsher than I was expecting. I was expecting a more comfortable ride since it's supposed to be, you know, a street-friendly setup. But all the little bumps in the road, they come through pretty good through the steering wheel. It seems like the high-speed impacts, it does not soak up like the MPPs do. Hopefully we'll be able to hit some pretty good bumps here to show you guys that. All right, so we're just on a back street here through the industrial area, and I don't know if you can hear it on camera, but the texture of the road comes through pretty well. You know, not in a good way. Rough. All right, we're getting on the freeway here. Here's our notorious freeway bump. Yeah, it just doesn't soak up this stuff. And, you know, we got the damping set at their recommended settings, which is around the 20 click mark. We've tried to soften it up on the Model Y, and it didn't really seem to help. There was some feedback on the internet saying that people softened it up a lot further than recommended, but we haven't found any success with that. I'm just surprised at how harsh it is, because these spring rates are a lot softer than what I was running on my Mountain Pass kit. Just goes to show that tuning is everything in the damper. It'll be interesting taking it to the track. You know, we're going to be going to Buttonwillow, and that's one track that going fast means you're hitting all the curbs, and if you don't have suspension that can take those curbs well, your car is going to get just thrown off the track or into an unstable state. So I'm not expecting a whole lot on the track. We'll just do the best we can and see what it does. So we're just heading down our Fremont streets here, and you know, it just feels very bouncy, you know. It doesn't seem to soak up a whole lot at all. Whew. All right, we're coming back in home base in our notorious driveway interchange here. That's pretty violent, so you'll be able to see that on camera. Yep.
I can already feel it just coming out of our driveway. We do have these at Ohlins' softest recommended settings. Some people have said that it can go softer than that, but for these purposes, we're doing things exactly in accordance with what Ohlins is recommending. So their instructions indicate exactly where all the spring perch should be set for specific ride heights, and then they give you what they recommend for uses, damper settings for various uses. So we're at the softest setting for the street. Just driving the first half a mile, I can feel everything. So all of the compression and the shock is very noticeable in comparison even to Steven's Mountain Pass Super Sport spring setup, which has a slightly higher spring rate than this in the rear. Man, this is really a lot firmer than the other stuff that we use for street. And this is substantially firmer than the Redwood kit. Even their, I believe they call it their Performance Sport kit. So the one that I think would directly compete with this. They do also have what they call their, oh man, this is really, you feel everything. I'm scared to even set these things stiffer than they are now. This is quite interesting. So the Redwood kits, they offer, I believe it's a GT kit, which is their very soft comfort kit. Probably don't want to lower that car a bunch. And then they have their Performance Sport kit, which is what I had on my car originally. And then they have their HPDE kit, which uses the same Performance Sport dampers, but higher spring rates for those guys who want to hit track days. And so I've also tested those out. Their valving is much, much more street friendly than this. This is definitely more on the track side of things. I do understand this is subjective, but we've tested a lot of things, and I will say that the MPP stuff that we run, I'll say this: firmer does not always mean faster. Stiffer does not always mean faster. So I'm gonna get back on the road and hit the freeway. All right, so I came back to the shop because I was just in disbelief that these dampers were set correctly. I should probably never question what Steven does because he's very good at what he does, but I was under the impression that the rear damper, it's inverted, so it's upside down, and I just had a feeling that he had ended up putting it at the stiffer setting versus a softer setting because the rotations are basically inverted. And that wasn't the case. I mean, the car rode so firm to me that I couldn't believe that it was at the softest setting. So I came back, we're in the shop right now. We just popped the rear wheels off to make sure that we counted the clicks, double checked all of the damper settings. And we were in fact at the softer end. So we're at 20 clicks open, front and rear, which is what Ohlins recommends as their softest setting for the street. So let's go on this drive again and do this over. So, you know, everything's the same like as it was before. It feels really firm. All of the compression, it just doesn't feel like there's very much there. I will say that, you know, the lean, it's very flat in comparison, but it does run a higher spring rate than what we're accustomed to with the Mountain Pass Sports adjustables. Even the Redwood Motorsports Performance Sports setup, they also run, I believe, a similar spring rate to what the MPP Sports adjustables are, and those things just feel really, really good. The suspension is just way more compliant on the street. The weight transition is also awesome on those two products. The Ohlins do corner very flat, but like I said before, firmer, stiffer, no roll does not always mean that you're going to be faster. Don't mind all of the cool things that Steven has in the back of this car. It is a track car. I'll say that the cornering feels good. I mean, it's flat. It'll be interesting to see what this thing will do at the track, going over berms and curbing. We definitely prefer the MPP setup. We've run a bunch of different other dampers at the track, and the MPPs just eat it up. I mean, completely absorbs. We can take a really fast line at the track. I shouldn't say we, but Steven, we've all watched him, even our other buddies who run on the MPP stuff, and they can just eat those curbs up, no problem. Does not upset the chassis. So I'll be really curious to see what happens with this. I think our next step is going to be actually putting some MPP Super Sport springs in the rear of this car to get a more level playing field, to kind of even things out between Stevens' Mountain Pass Super Sport setup versus this Ohlins setup, also with similar spring rates, and then send that at the track. And he's run it so many times with his MPP setup that he's going to be able to give a really good personal opinion on the differences between the two setups, and what he prefers. So the on-ramps and off-ramps I really thought were nice. No issues there. But on the street and, you know, even hitting dips on the freeway, it's not good. Not in my opinion. I don't think somebody who is really interested in having a streetable product, something more for street than track, would enjoy this. I don't think it's better than factory. The rear is really firm. Front's not extremely bad, but the rear is firm. I don't know if it's going to come across in the video. The rear is quite firm. This is some bad part of our main road going back to the office, and pretty sure you can kind of see all this movement here. Again, we're at 20, gosh, that's rough. We're at 20 clicks open, front and rear. I'm actually apprehensive. I don't even know if I want to know what this thing's going to feel like on the stiff end. I think our purpose for this video is to show what the typical end user or consumer would be purchasing this product for, and that's to have a very streetable product considering the brand name and the recognition of Ohlins dual flow valve. We're gonna definitely set this thing up for the track, and then Steven will be able to play with the damping, see what he can get out of it at the track. So those are my thoughts. Not more impressive actually than my Y. I was thinking it was going to be a lot better. We had done a customer car prior, but driving it again, both of them back to back, it's really firm. So just to kind of save you guys from a hefty expense, you know, if you're really looking to buy an Ohlins product for the street, I do not think this standard off-the-shelf Ohlins kit that retails for $3,190 is the right kit for you. I do believe that there are other lesser expensive products, not under the Ohlins brand, that will be more suitable for you. Tane for one, albeit Tane would require you to lower the vehicle at least an inch, I think, to get into the optimal range for ride comfort. You've got Mountain Pass. Mountain Pass has a pretty large height range for comfort. So I don't think you can go as low with Mountain Pass coilovers as you can with the Tanes and retain ride comfort. So there's a sweet spot for Mountain Pass, and that happens to be on kind of that 1.5 inch drop closer to factory. Ohlins, it's just really firm. I think if you wanted an Ohlins brand, you spend the extra money and you get a Redwood Ohlins product, and you'll be really, really happy with what they've done with their valving, their spring rates, their beautiful machining. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned as we install some higher spring rates on the back of this Ohlins setup to compare them to the Mountain Pass Super Sport setup that is normally on Steven's car.